What's going on, everybody? Jay Lawson here, the Black Statistician. And I know it's been a little while since I posted a video. I am going to start posting more regularly. The biggest thing is I've been very busy with work. And then I also started my own business this year. I'm trying to get that off the ground. So, it's taken up a lot of my time, but I definitely want to put some effort and energy into building my channel and building awareness of certain issues that we have going on in the community, as well as bouncing ideas off of you all and getting some input from you guys getting input from me on how we can, build wealth, financial freedom, success, etc. But I found this great article online it was time.com, and they were talking about the top 23 reasons why people are broke. And I found 3 of them very interesting, and I wanted to kind of expand on them because probably like 10 years ago, when I was in my 20s, I did some of these things and I changed these things, and you see a big benefit when you actually change those things. So, I wanted to point them out just in case any of you all are doing these things. You could change them as well and start moving towards, thinking like someone that's not of a poor mindset. Not saying that you're of a poor mindset or anything like that. It's just that there are certain things that poor mindset thinks about that, the wealthy mindset does not think about. And I think that it's important to look at those things and then do some introspection into yourself and say, hey, do I do these things? And if you do, then you just change them and don't do them anymore. So the first one is, the first one that I saw that was on, and I'm going to link that article in the description down below. But the first one that I saw that really stood out to me is it says, you haven't learned about personal finance. And what I mean by that, because I'm just going to go off of what I believe with what I've learned from personal finance, is that in order to grow wealth and actually gain money at the fastest rate, most of the books that I've seen, they say that you're not going to get rich by putting 10% of your paycheck or whatever in the bank and letting it sit there. The main way you're going to actually grow wealth is to actually invest your money or start businesses, things like that. So, and that's because of the value of a thing called compound interest. Compound interest is a topic and subject that even Einstein found extremely fascinating because of how it works. And a lot of people know about compound interest or think they do, but they really don't. They don't understand fully the ramifications of letting the money grow at a specific rate. For example, if you were to take $5, right, every day and put that $5 into an envelope, right, and then at the end of the month, put that money into, say, like a mutual fund, right, or something like that, that gained an average rate of return of what we've seen over the last 30 years, which is about 11%. Within about 4 or 5 years, you would have put in about maybe 7,000, right? But do you realize that at that rate of return, you'd have almost 20,000 in that account? So you might be like, well, how could you have put in 7,000 and grown 13,000 or gained 13,000 on top of that? But that's a little thing called compound interest. And that's a small amount of time. You know what I mean? So you're talking like, if like, say your goal was, say you're having problems saving up for a vehicle, but yet you go, you buy a pack of cigarettes every day, or you go to Starbucks every day, or you eat fast food twice a day, right? You could literally exercise a little bit of personal discipline, save that $5, right? And invest that and probably have enough money. Well, you would have enough money to buy the car cash in 4 years. And then you wouldn't even have a car payment. So you could literally just say, hey, and it takes making a decision, empowering yourself and saying, hey, I'm tired of, dealing with, not having money and having these high car payments and things like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sacrifice for about 3 years. I'm just going to sock about $5 a day away. At the end of every month, I'm going to invest that money. And then in 3 years, I'm just going to go buy my car cash. And for the next 10 years after that, I'm not going to have to worry about a car payment. Those are the type of things that people that end up being wealthy do. They're not just throwing money away and not paying attention to it and things like that. They actually make decisions that involve themselves gaining advantage, which would be like, the fact that you don't have a car payment. So in other words, educating yourself about personal finances, not just interest rates, not just compound interest, but actually budgeting and things like that is what you need to do to determine, or not determine, but to get yourself in a situation where you're going to actually grow money, and not be in the same situation that you are. You have to actually make a decision, say, hey, starting today, I'm going to change these behaviors. It takes a long time for a behavior to become a habit. And once you're in a certain habit, it's like your brain wants to continuously do those things. So you have to actually break those bad ideas by continuing to affirm to yourself that you're going to change. But I'm here to tell you that you can change, you can make those changes, and you'll see huge benefits from them. For example, I personally put a certain amount away every month and buy into stocks and mutual funds and things like that. And because I've done that, I'm financially secure today. If I hadn't have done that, I would not be financially secure today. Okay, so the second one that I saw was you don't pay yourself first. So you might say, what are you talking about? Pay yourself first. Okay, so if you make $2,000 a month after taxes, right? The majority of people take that money and then they just start spending on it. I'm going to give you an interesting statistic, and you can check this if you want, but it's accurate. About 52% of people have less than $1,000 in their savings account right now. And you might say that sounds crazy, $1,000, but it's true. I mean, you can see different studies, and some say it's even higher. And they're getting this information from interviews with people, censuses, banks. So, it's accurate information. So pretty much, if you want to make a move towards success, let's say you don't have $1,000 in your savings account. If you want to quickly get ahead of, you could quickly get ahead of half of people, not saying you should compare yourself to others, but you will get ahead of half of the people out there just by saving up $1,000. So when we talk about making moves towards success, like for example, the moves I'm making is when I started with $1,000 10 or so years ago or whatever, I'm making 10 doubles to $1 million. So I'm doubling my money 10 times to get to $1 million. And I'm about, I will say I'm not that many, I'm maybe 1 or 2 doubles away from $1 million. So the thing is you have to start with a goal and be like, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this happen. And then you set up things to make those things happen. You put that thought out there, and then your brain will automatically start trying to determine how you can do it. So you don't tell yourself, I can't do this. You basically say, how can I do this? That's what a lot of wealthy people say. I've seen that advice in several books that I've read. The whole, how can I get this done? It's not, I can't make $1 million. It's, how can I make $1 million? And then you'll start actually figuring out how to do it and realize that if you make $1,000 1,000 times, that's $1 million. If you make $10 100,000 times, that's $1 million. You know what I mean? So your brain will automatically start putting those pieces together and figure it out. So as far as this paying yourself first thing, like we said, let's say you get that $2,000 paycheck, right? The majority of people just start spending automatically, start spending on the $2,000. And what I'm telling you is that's not the right way to do it, because that way, and no matter how much money you have, you can end up spending it all. That's not hard to do. The majority of people that make $100,000 a year, they're in debt as well, because they just spend, and we're not, in general, we're not really thinking, hey, how much of this are we going to put away? A good percentage to really shoot for, if you're starting out, is about 10%. And you want to get up to, some people can put away 30% of their income and things like that. And those people see huge amounts of net worth later on in life because they do those things, And I know a lot of people are like, hey, I want to have nice things now and things like that. But you have to think about like, the what's more important. Is having the nice thing now more important than having financial freedom later to do what you want to do, to come and go as you please, to be generating $2,000-$3,000 or more a month of just interest and things like that? Because to me, it's not. To me, I'd rather be generating $4,000 a month just for waking up. But that's just me. So when I say pay yourself first, when you do your budget, and I'll do a video on how I recommend you do your budget. The first thing you want to do is you want to pay yourself. And if you have trouble with sticky fingers in your bank account, what I could recommend to you is to actually tomorrow go open up another bank account, right? And that's going to be like, if your name is like, my name is Jay. So that'll be the Bank of Jay, and that's a bill. And that bill is, let's say, $200 a month, because we said 10%. That bill's $200 a month. So what I'm going to do is every time I get my paycheck for the month, my $2,000, right, I'm going to move $200 into that account. So pretty much all I have is $1,800 to spend. And then when you get increases and things like that, and you get up to $3,000, $4,000 a month, still stick with that same percentage if you can. What that'll do is it'll train you and your brain to start automatically working with not having that money. And if you have an issue with just spending money until it's gone, that's a very good fail safe to keep yourself from really just losing all your money and being one of those people who it's 7 days after they got paid and they don't get paid again for 8 more days. And they're broke trying to figure out how to stretch 10% of their income for 20% of the month or 30% of the month. That just doesn't make sense, So pay yourself first. Then with what's left, write out everything that you owe for that, you're going to owe for that month, and figure out what the bottom line number is, right? Your actual cash flow number is. So it's not important what the first number is, right? Like obviously when you get paid $2,000 a month, you have to pay taxes on that. And you're going to take home like $1,600 if that's the case, right? And then say your bills are $1,100, then that means you have $500 of positive cash flow. And the reason why a lot of people don't have $1,000 in their bank account is they don't know what that number is, that positive cash flow number. Because if you did, you could adjust spending accordingly. Like, let me ask you something. Do you know this month how much money you spent on energy drinks? What about food? What about clothes? If you don't know those numbers, then you probably don't have $1,000 in your bank account. I'm just putting it out there. And if you did know those numbers, then you probably do have $1,000 in your bank account. or at least have a roundabout, because people who budget control how much they save, and people who don't budget, the media and society controls how much you spend. That's how it works. So think about that. Make a budget, pay yourself first, figure out where you need to adjust spending to get to where you can put away 10%. And then the last one I want to talk about is you're not making savings a priority. You're prioritizing Jordans or Gucci or whatever. You're trying to. I met this old Sergeant Major one time, because I'm in the Army, so a lot of my stories go into the Army. But he told me back when I was a private, he told me, he's like, Sergeant Lawson or Private Lawson, you are gonna have two decisions to make. You can either be rich or look rich. Because I think at that time he saw me I was driving a BMW, and I was, barely had been in the Army any time or whatever. And he said, you can either be rich or you can look rich. And that still sticks with me even today, and instead of like making your idea of what you can afford be something ridiculous. Like if we take that same person that's making $2,000 a month, some people think that making $2,000 a month, they can afford a BMW. But you know what's funny? If you take the richest people in the world, like Bill Gates or Warren Buffett, these two drive normal cars like Camrys. And so they don't even think it's a good idea to get a BMW. Not saying you shouldn't get a BMW, because they're kind of extremists. And if you make, $100,000 a year or whatever, and you have $3,000 or $4,000 a month, $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month positive cash flow, you could afford a $500 payment. But it's just that the decision to do it, you have to kind of look at it. Like if you're making like I said, the $2,000 a month, and you got a $500 car payment, something's probably wrong with that situation, and granted, some people can afford that car payment and are perfectly happy doing it. But I'm talking to the people that don't have $1,000 in their bank account, because that's what we started with, right? So if you are making $2,000 a month, don't have $1,000 in your bank account, but yet you have a $300, $400, $500 luxury car payment, you have to ask yourself, is it smarter for me to have a nice car with no money, or would I rather have an average car and have $20,000 in my bank account that's growing, and then 10 years later, $200,000 in my bank account that's growing, and then 10 years later, $1 million in my bank account that's growing? And I'm here to tell you that you have the power to decide if that's going to be your reality based on how you adjust to what's coming at you. Because society is trying to get money out of you. Whenever you walk out of your house, somebody's trying to take money out of your pocket. And if you don't understand that, then you're one of the ones that's getting money taken from you. There's a certain percentage of people, it's a small percentage, who get money from other people into their space and into their bank account. And I want you to start thinking like one of those type of people by just changing little things about what you do. Be consciously aware that people are trying to get money from you, and be understanding that nobody can keep success or keep you from being rich one day. The only person that can affect that is you, actually. So that's just a little food for thought. Just remember, always aim at legendary so that you can land in success. I'm out.